Hi dear students, welcome to social science class. In today's class, we will be continuing the first lesson in social science, that is global warming. In the previous class, we have studied about atmosphere, greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, and we also understood how the global warming affect on Earth. In today's class, we will be studying the consequences of global warming. There are major 4 consequences are there for global warming. First consequence of global warming is called drought. The rise in the temperature of the Earth's surface leads to extremely hot and dry conditions are called drought. Due to the rise in the temperature, some places in the world experience extreme hot and dry condition, and that is called what? Drought. And such places won't be experiencing much rainfall for a long period of time. So this is the first consequence of global warming. So what is that? Drought. The rise in the temperature of the Earth's surface leads to extremely hot and dry conditions are called drought. Second consequence of global warming, melting of ice caps in polar regions. An increase in the temperature of the Earth leads to the melting of ice caps in the polar region. Due to the increase in the temperature, the ice mountains which is located near and around the cold region, especially around the Arctic and Atlantic oceans, are melting now, and that is a dangerous sign of global warming. And the animals and the species which live on these ice mountains are losing their natural home or natural habitat. Okay, as you see in the picture, there are many animals like mountain bear, penguin, Arctic wolf, Arctic fox, and polar bear. Okay, all these animals live on these snow mountains. So these animals and the rare species who live on these mountains are losing their natural homes as a result of global warming. So the melting of ice caps in the polar regions is a second consequence of global warming. Now let's study the third one, the floods. So flood is the another major consequence of global warming. The water from the melted ice causes the water levels in the seas and oceans causing floods. The fresh ice water that coming from huge ice mountains are added to the oceans and seas. As a result, what happens? The water level of the oceans and seas will rise up. And in such condition, when flood happens, in Malayalam we say Vellappakam, isn't it? So when flood happens, the lower area or the cities or small villages which is located near to the seas and oceans will negatively affected with floods. So flood is another major consequence of global warming. The water from the melted ice causes the water levels in the seas and oceans causing floods. Then fourth major consequence of global warming, they affect crop production. The changes in the climate can also affect the crop production since they need good climatic conditions for proper growth. If crop production is affected, it can lead to food scarcity. See, in the world there are n number of crops are there. Especially in India, we have crops like rice, wheat, millet, maize. Okay, so these are the major crops that we have in India. So if such crops are not getting an adequate or proper climatic condition, what happens? We won't get a proper production from these crops. Okay, so that's the meaning of this sentence. The changes in the climate can also affect crop production since they need a good climatic condition for a proper growth. If crop production is affected, it can lead to food scarcity. If we won't able to produce more and more crops, it also affects our daily life, because most of us are adding these kind of crops or weeds in our daily life. And if we are not having a proper production of these crops, it also leads to what? It also leads to food scarcity, the lack of food. Okay, so these are the major 4 consequences of global warming, and apart from these consequences there are n number of consequences are there that are there in the earth that happens due to the global warming. So what are the major 4 consequences? First one is drought, second the melting of ice caps in the polar regions, floods, and finally we have learned about effect of crop productions. So these are the note for you. The 5th question, define drought. The rise in the temperature of the earth's surface leads to extremely hot and dry conditions called drought. 6th question, how does global warming affect the crop production? The answer, the changes in the climate can also affect crop production since they need a good climatic condition for a proper growth. If crop production is affected, it can lead to food scarcity. So these notes you have to copy into the notebook and you have to study it. And along that, I suggest you to read the textbook many times. Okay. So we will be seeing next class. Thank you.